Hi everyone, and welcome to Choose Love. This is a panel we are honoured to be a part of the London Fashion Week digital schedule this year. And I am Philly from Choose Love, and I have with me on this virtual panel some incredible humans. I have Taban, who runs one of the amazing projects that we work with, the Lotus Flower, Tolu, Nabil Nayal, Olivia Thomas, and Kika and Marco from 16 Arlington. So the context for us being here today is that the four designers you see in front of you have all created the t-shirts which they are now wearing as a collaborative new Choose Love launch in time for London Fashion Week, and basically to raise money for our work on the ground. So over the past 5 years, we have hugely relied on the funds we raise by selling the Choose Love merchandise. It has allowed us to do so much of the work we do. We're really people power movement. So when someone buys a t-shirt, they wear a Choose Love slogan and kind of get to feel that they're in this movement of solidarity with their fellow humans, but they're also doing something to tangibly help, because we send all the profits directly to the projects that we support, including Taban's incredible The Lotus Flower. So providing everything from legal support to food to safe spaces for women, nappies, and everything in between. So thank you to Taban for the amazing work that you do, and thank you to all of you incredible designers for helping to allow us to continue to do this. It really feels like the Choose Love family is growing in a very beautiful way. So I would love to start by asking Tolu a question. If you could let me know what your inspiration behind your design was, and then maybe how you feel that fashion can be a part of social change.
Yeah, so I don't think, hang on, I should probably re-angle so you can see it. So yeah, my design was inspired by time which I spent on the continent, across the continent of Africa last year, namely in Nigeria, Congo and Rwanda. And it was just really, really inspiring, I think, when, you know, I thought of the words Choose Love, especially just in the context of this time and everything that's going on in the world. And just myself as, you know, both a British and African woman, it was really thinking about Blackness from a space of celebration and a space of joy. And I think, you know, in this time we've seen a lot of things which kind of resemble trauma and resemble a lot of pain and a lot of hurt. And I think also when I was thinking about, you know, what's going on with the refugee crisis globally, quite often we see Black people and people of colour and minority communities, their stories always, you know, come from a position of deprivation. And I think it was just such a contrast to what I experienced physically being on the continent and meeting people and engaging with them, and their identity coming from a place of wealth, you know, like meeting really empowered and really happy people, really self-sufficient people. And I think those are the narratives we don't often see. And I think those are some of the things that are really important as well, even with the idea of charity, that it's not a saviour complex. And so, yeah, these were all portraits that I took of people who I encountered and who I got to experience joy or love, you know, with. And that's what I really wanted this design to be about. And I think with fashion, it can definitely be used as a tool of social change when we realise that it's more than just design, but it's also like, it's a form of documentation, it's a form of artifact. You know, if you think of clothing, it tells a story of society at any given point of time. And I think as designers, we also have, you know, somewhat of a responsibility as almost historians, you know, or journalists in some sense, that we get to document people's stories and lives. And I think it starts with self-accountability. We often celebrate the things we do right, and very rarely do we have the conversations about what we don't do right and what we've got wrong. And I think just being more open and honest about that is also part of the education of how we can change. So yeah, that's how I think it is.
Incredible. I think it's such an important point about like kind of countering the othering narratives that kind of are out there and that have been a bit kind of historic that kind of relic of colonialism, which we're all just so aware of, and trying to show that there's an alternative to that, especially in the kind of NGO and charity sphere. I think there's such a tendency to be able to go into that kind of old style of doing things, and to ban like the work that you do, the empowerment work that you do, the work that you do, like the Boxing Sisters, that's the name of one of the programs, isn't it? And the Sewing Sisters, it's that's the opposite of that. I think it's like getting people boxing, like that's kind of challenging those old-fashioned narratives and stereotypes. Love for you to talk a bit about your work.
Definitely, thank you. So I guess that kind of comes from my experience of actually being a survivor of conflict. So I'm a genocide survivor, and I've kind of looked at what's helped me grow. And with the region, with what happened, I'm very close to the region and in terms of the culture. And I think it's very important for me not to go in and for us to try and start implementing projects for them because we think it's right. Actually, we worked very closely with the women, and the way that the story, the Sewing Sisters came about was actually from the women. So when we asked them, you know, these women had been completely traumatized. They'd been rescued from ISIS, so they were sex slaves, and they've had families killed and still have some families captured. And actually, when we asked them what they wanted to do, it had got to a point where they'd been interviewed by so many people about what happened. They just came to us and said, please, we just want to start rebuilding our life. I've got kids to support. I've got children. I've no longer got a husband to bring the money in. So I need to learn a skill for me to be able to support my children. And we asked them what they wanted to do, and sewing came up. And I thought, well, sewing is something that all the other NGOs were doing, but they weren't doing it properly, because what they were doing is they were just doing the sewing program and giving them a sewing machine, and that was it. So I thought, actually, it's the holistic program that's needed. So some of these women would come to us and they don't know how to read and write. So they'd go through the adult literacy program to learn how to read and write. And then they do the sewing program for 3 months. And then we'd bring contracts from outside of the camps into the camps so they can actually work. And that was the crucial part to it, was finishing the loop and the cycle. And actually, it's just been phenomenal to watch over the few years, because Tolu, what you said about the identity and kind of reclaiming the identity through fashion, really we saw that happening a lot, because with the Yazidi community, what had happened was ISIS had come in and completely just taken their lives. They'd killed people, they'd taken their identities and actually said, no, you're not allowed to be Yazidis. And so when the women took the sewing projects, we noticed that so many of the sewing projects that were coming to them was to sew traditional Yazidi clothes, and it was for them to give to the children. So some of the soldiers, the children soldiers that had been rescued, or the girls that had been rescued, so they were making traditional Yazidi clothes, reclaiming their identity through fashion and earning an income at the same time, and actually displaying their culture and their identity proudly. So I think moments like that, it's just been so heartwarming to see. And Boxing Sisters was kind of born the same way. The region, boxing does not exist for women at all. And I thought, well, how do we take boxing? I needed some way for them to channel their emotions and the trauma that they'd experienced. And the regional government had set up a military force, and I thought, that's not something we can do. But what's the equivalent of them channeling their anger and the deep rooted anger that they had, and how do they rebuild their confidence, and how can we turn it into something that's income generating? And actually Boxing Sisters was born out of that, because it's all three. It helps them rebuild their confidence, it helps them channel their emotions, but then it also helps them generate an income, because we hire the trainers to continue the classes with the women and girls. So yeah, there's definitely a story behind each of the projects.
Amazing, thank you so much. And next, I would love to ask Nabil why you wanted to get involved in this collaboration.
It's something that's really close to my heart. I'm Syrian born. I lived there until I was 14 in Aleppo in Syria. and moved to England in 1998 and have lived here ever since. But it's a place that I've not been to since I left in 98, and I feel like for a long time I felt a big disconnection to my own identity, until probably about a year and a half ago my dad went back to Syria to look after the family, who at that point were really struggling financially, etc. And in the process of him returning, was sending me images, the family images of all the things we kind of left behind in such a hurry. And it really brought back quite vivid memories of my past. And yeah, I felt like I needed at that point, this is a year and a half ago, to really start talking about my cultural identity and the fact that I never quite felt British enough or Syrian enough to be defined by either culture. And as a result, I guess I've been kind of othered. So my work now kind of combines usually historical European referencing, which is something that I've spent a long time researching, but also now more recently in the last couple of years, so my own identity, my background as well. Getting involved with you guys was a no-brainer. It meant so much for me to have been asked in the first place. I wear the t-shirt that you're wearing now on a regular basis, Philly. And so to have been asked to be part of this really incredible NGO and all the stuff that you stand for, and the fact that you support so many people from the region that I'm from, just was a no-brainer. I wanted to do as much as I could to shine a light on your incredible work. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. It's an honor to have you involved. It's like, honestly, it's just incredible to have everyone's designs are so beautiful and so unique and so different. And we always talk about how the thing, like the kind of ways that the things that are inspiring is so often like all the different ways that people kind of use their skills and their time and their energy and their network and their like art to help, and like the different ways that people find to do that. And that's like, that gives like us as like a team so much energy in itself, just kind of feeling that and knowing that there's so many people that really care about their fellow humans, and it feels like anything's possible when we kind of come together. And that's what I like about Choose Love, although I'm probably very biased about Choose Love. But so kind of in terms of like inspiration, Olivia, it would be amazing to hear from you what your inspiration was behind your design.
Okay, so the inspiration behind my t-shirt design was this old painting called The Raft of Medusa by Theodore Jeko. It basically depicts survivors of a shipwreck, and it like basically moments before they're rescued. And so the survivors, they're usually heroes, but on this raft, they're actually ordinary people. So I thought it was really nice as a sort of perfect metaphor for obviously the sort of struggled and the people that are displaced and the vulnerable communities that Choose Love, the NGO, actually helps to support. I thought it kind of made sense as a reference, and also it also references like a lot of the way I work as well. My new collection is called Salvage, and that ties with the idea of shipwreck. So the idea of like saving and salvaging things, it's incorporated in my sort of process. But I took the sort of gory part away because I was like, it's not really visually, it doesn't make sense. So I chose to use the sail because the sail sort of represents the journey forwards. It's sort of like symbolizing a new beginning. And I thought that, makes sense for all the work these guys do, which is amazing. And obviously offers people new beginnings, literally. So, and it's hard to see things like not down the right way, but it's hard to see now, but I'm sure you're aware of when we first spoke, I really wanted to hand embroider like some stuff onto the t-shirts because I thought of sort of incorporating the idea of sustainability and like repairing stuff, but obviously we had to do a digital print, so I did it anyway with the lettering from my handwriting, and then I guess sent it to you guys in terms of the digital print. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then Kika and Marco, this time that we're in now, it feels like I was saying before, it feels like there's so much potential for change, but it also feels like a divisive time, and also everyone's got a lot on their minds. It's like a difficult time for everyone in so many different ways. So yeah, I would love to know kind of what made you guys want to be a part of this and to create a beautiful Choose Love t-shirt to help support our work.
We're so honored that you guys have asked us to be involved. Again, for us as well, it was a no-brainer. We definitely wanted to contribute in any way that we could. And in terms of inspiration for our t-shirt, we kept it quite simple and just really thought about the choice of color for us. So we had the red really stand out because the color for us really means and represents strength, power, and determination, which is really what we feel Choose Love and the amazing work that you do really stands for.
Amazing, thank you. Taban, I would also love to ask you what inspires you generally in the work that you do and kind of keeps you going.
Oh, wow. The smiles of the women and girls. And I think you see the work that we do is so direct, and we see them coming in a state of trauma where you kind of feel like, actually, are they ever going to get over or try and heal from what they've experienced? But once they come into our safe social space amongst all the other women and all the other girls, and they participate in the classes, it's just phenomenal to see the change in them. We've got women who have just completely and utterly changed their lives, but also changed their position within the family and the community. Like, I can tell you a story of a woman called Hafer whose sons were taken to become child soldiers with ISIS. She was taken with her children. She was separated from her boys. She's deaf and mute. She was rescued before the sun, so she came back to the camps. She started on our sewing program. She's been on our adult literacy. Because she's deaf and mute and a single mum, her family actually basically disowned her because she was seen as a burden. And so we managed to help her to get her own cabin, to get her sorted out. And then she started coming through the programs. And now she's gone through the Women's Business Incubator. She's now, she's running a shop where she sells mobile phone top-up cards. And I just think it's an absolutely genius idea because, you know, everyone needs those top-up cards. And, you know, the fact that we've managed to help her because she's deaf and mute, and in the region it's very, very difficult if you've got any disadvantage and you're not able to work because there aren't any provisions for that. So for her to be able to set up her own business, continue doing the Sewing Sisters, and look after her children, so her sons were rescued, it's just phenomenal to see. Every time I go back and I just see her flourish each time. I think that's what inspires me 100%, is actually just seeing the direct impact that it has on the women and girls.
Thank you. It's really, really amazing to be able to hear about. Does everyone want to talk about something that you've got coming up, something you want to share, something exciting that's coming? Does anyone have anything they want to share? Anything for Fashion Week or otherwise? No?
I'm super quiet. I just want to add a bit more to what Taban said. Obviously, I was talking before about how, it brought back lots of memories of my dad kind of being back in Syria this recent couple of years and sending images of whatever of the stuff that we were surrounded by as children. It's like you said as well, it's a very different culture and a very different approach to families and societies. On the one hand, it's very inclusive and very kind of family comes first. But on the other hand, if for somehow you're different or you don't quite fit into whatever their ideals are of, families' ideals are of what they think is going to be right, it can be quite difficult. And so it's just it's really amazing to be part of something like this, that we can all be sort of saying, well, okay, shit's going on, it's really, really difficult, but actually what we can do is come together and actually shed a light on this really challenging situation and also unite not only the people that are on the face of it like this now, but also the people behind the scenes. You guys, Philly, like, you are incredible, all of you, and Hassan as well, who I've had the pleasure to meet, who is Syrian and came
everyone's met Hassan. He's a legend.
Yeah, he came over as a refugee, didn't he? And he's like amazing. Like, his stories are incredible. And he projected himself over the cliffs of Dover to save the world. You know, we're misunderstood. Like, this is not right. And so yeah, just want to reiterate how important it is to be part of this, and also, yeah, just hopefully we can keep designing for you, because obviously we've loved it, certainly from our perspective. So thank you.
We can totally second that. I think it's been, like, as Kika said as well, a real honour to be part of something. And going back to, like, our design, we just wanted, like, after such a traumatic year and what the world has been through as a whole, it was just kind of, everything feels like it's really stripped back, and it's almost restoring back to factory settings. So, you know, the idea of simplicity for us was really important. But it's just really amazing to even be aligned with all you guys, because you're all such amazing, talented designers. And it's just really, really, when you said what exciting things have we got coming up, I think this is a really exciting project taking part on.
Thank you, that's awesome. So I guess I'll wrap up for the panel. It has been so great seeing you all, talking to you all in this virtual way. And there is also, Priya Alwalia has also created a design. She wasn't able to join the panel, but all of the designs will be available on the London Fashion Week website, and also on our website, choose.love. And £25 per t-shirt, of which £10 is a donation. And the Lotus Flower, which is run by Taban, is one of the organisations which will be benefiting from the sales. So I'm sure they're going to sell really well, I hope. And yeah, we're so grateful to you all. Taban, it's a total honour to still be working with you. And we're very grateful to the BFC for including us on the digital schedule, for giving us and sharing that platform. It's a real privilege and an honour. So yeah, thank you all, and thank you for your incredibly beautiful designs.